Hi everyone. In previous session, we have seen about iframes. We have seen what is iframe, how to handle elements present inside the iframe. The example which we have seen in previous session were simple iframes. So there was one parent page, and inside this parent page, there were multiple iframes, and we handled elements present in independent iframes. But there is possibility that sometimes there can be a nested iframes. What is the meaning of nested iframe? Nested iframe means iframes inside other iframe. So when you load the web page, there can be one iframe, and inside that iframe 1, there can be single or another multiple iframes which are present inside the iframe 1. This is called as a nested iframe. So if you see this example, in this iframe 2 is present inside iframe 1. So iframe 1 is parent and iframe 2 is child frame. There can be a single or multiple child frames can be present inside the parent frame as well. So in this case, there is a iframe 1 which is having one child iframe, that is iframe 2. This iframe 2 is present inside the iframe 1. And to interact with elements present inside the nested iframe, we can use child frames method to get all the nested iframe present inside the parent iframe. So let me show you one simple example. So this is one website. In this website, there is one parent iframe. So this is parent iframe. This parent iframe is having one element that is saying click here. So what my use case is, I want to first click on this click here button of parent iframe. So once you click on this, it will display this text. You click the button of iframe 1, and after that I want to click on this click here button which is present inside the parent iframe. This is basically another iframe. If you see, this is iframe 2, and when you click on this iframe 2 click here button, it is showing you some different text now. So this is my use case. So if you inspect this element, let's inspect both the iframes. So if you inspect this iframe, this is the first iframe. If you see, this is the first iframe which is having ID as parent iframe. And inside this parent iframe, there is another iframe, that is iframe 2. If you see inside this parent iframe, if you highlight this second iframe, it is having another identifier, and this is present inside the parent iframe. In the previous sessions, that was present outside of the parent iframe. But now if you see, this another iframe, iframe 1, is present inside our parent iframe. If you see, this is the parent iframe. If you see the code of HTML CSS, this is our parent iframe ID, and inside this parent iframe there is another iframe ID. If you see, inside this parent frame there is one more child frame that is having ID as iframe 1. So let's see how we can interact with first element with parent iframe and then element with nested iframe. So I will just go to Visual Studio Code. In Visual Studio Code, I have created one file that is nested_iframe.spec.js. So we have created the file, and this is our normal syntax which we are using. So here I am naming this test case as iframe handling. So we are now seeing the nested iframe handling. So I am just naming it as nested iframes handling. So I will just open this URL first. So whenever we load this web page, by default it will be loaded like this. So I am just copying this URL. So by default it will load like this. So let's pass this URL in this page .go to. So it will launch this web page, it will open this web page. After opening this web page, what is the first step? So we have to first define first frame, that is constant frame 1, which is kind of a parent frame. So frame 1 underscore parent equals to page dot, we can use frame locator or we can use dot frame as well. I will just use page.frame. And when you use page.frame, what we have to pass? We can either pass name or we can pass URL. So let's see what is the present here for this iframe. So this is our iframe 1. We have to capture the parent frame. So this is our parent frame now. So parent frame is having name. So I can use this name or we can use URL as well, but I will just use name directly. I'm just copying this name, and in this page.frame I want to pass name and value of that name attribute. So it will capture the parent frame in frame1 underscore parent. After capturing this parent frame, what we want to do first? We want to click on this button. So we can directly click on this button by using frame1 locator. So first let's identify this. What is the button ID? So we can use this ID directly. So I'm just copying this ID, and now what I have to do, I have to just perform the action. Await frame1, that is parent frame dot locator. In this we have to pass the ID of that button. So we can use hash here. And I'm just going to simply click on that button. Sorted up to this point. We are simply capturing the parent frame, just like we have seen in our previous sessions. And then we are capturing the locator of that frame and we are clicking on that button. So it will launch the web page, it will find the parent frame, it will click on the parent frame button. But now the next step. After clicking on this button, now we want to find out this second iframe, which is present inside the parent iframe. And then we have to click on this second button, which is present inside the iframe 2. So in Playwright, we can use one method, that is child frames. So when you use parent frame dot child frames, it will return all the nested iframes which are present inside that parent frame. So in this case, in this iframe 1, that is parent iframe, currently there is only one iframe is present, that is one child frame is present, but there can be multiple childs as well. So what I have to do is, I am just creating one constant. Before that, let me add some timeout. Await page dot wait for some timeout. I will just add timeout of 3 seconds. After that, what I have to do, I am just defining one constant. Let's say I'm naming it as child underscore frames equal to, I want to capture all the child frames which are present inside the parent frame. So frame1 underscore parent dot child frames method. So this child frames method will return all the child frames which are present inside the parent frame, and it will store it in child frames constant. If you want to see the count, let me just print the count as well. Console.log child frames dot child frames dot length. So it should return how many child frames are present and written by this child frames, right? So we have to use await here. Let's save this and let's execute this time. So let me execute this file. Let me terminate this one. What is the command? Npx playwright test. What is the file name? Nested underscore iframes iframe dot spec dot js hyphen hyphen headed hyphen hyphen project equals to chromium. But before executing this, so it will print the count of child frames. But currently, if you see, there is only single child frame which is present inside this parent frame. So what I will do, I will just click on this button. So that is a single child frame which is present inside the parent frame. What is the ID? Click here. If you see, this is the ID for this button. So now what we can do before that, so we are capturing all the child frames inside this constant, but currently there is only single one, or we can say the first one. So I want to just locate, so let's say await child frames. So what we have to do is await child frames, and we want to capture the first one. So I am passing the index of that as a 0, so it will find out. So this is basically in array, or we can say a list format, and we want to find out the first one which is present on 0 index, and we want to find the locator. And what is the ID which we have captured for that button, that we have to pass here. So since it is a ID, we have to pass hash, and we have to click on it. So it will click on the button which is present inside the child frame. It will capture that child frame and it will click on that child frame. So let's save this and let's execute this file. So first it will find out the parent frame. It will click on the button which is present inside the parent frame. Then it will click on the button which is present inside the nested iframe. It will locate, it will find out all the child frames which are present in the parent iframe, and from that the first child iframe it will locate, and then we are clicking on that child frame. So it got skipped because we have used test.skip here. Let me just remove that. Control S for saving the file, and let's execute one more time. So this time it should work. So both the buttons should be clicked now. So it will launch the browser. It will find out the parent iframe. It will click on the button which is present inside the parent iframe. Then it will move to child iframe. It will find, so we have used child frames method, which will capture all the child frames present inside the parent frame. And then it will click on the button which is present inside the first child frame. It is launching the web page. If you see, it should click on first clicked, and then it should click on second button. I think something got failed. Let's see what is the issue here. So let me remove this child frames dot length one, because let's see what is the error. It is saying that it is not a function. So let me just remove as of now. So let me just remove this one. Let's save this and let's rerun the file one more time. So let's execute the file one more time. So it is launching the web page. It should click on parent iframe button first, and then it will click on child iframe buttons. So it is launching the page. If you see, first button should be clicked now. Now the second button also should be clicked, and both the buttons got clicked now. So this is how we can work with nested iframes. So we can use child frames method, which will return one list, or we can say array. And if you want to find out count, so if you see it throw the error, but let's say I want to find out the count as well. But for that, what we have to do is we have to use or that I will show you next time. But first, I hope you have understood what is nested iframe handling. So what we have to do is we have to perform this operation. We can use child frames method. After using child frames, it will capture all the methods present inside this parent frame. And from the first frame, we want to click on the button. So we have passed the locator of the button. So this is how we can work with nested iframes. So let's revise one more time. So nested iframe means child frame present inside the parent frame. So we can use child frame method to capture all the frames present inside the parent one, and depending on the number of child frames, we can interact with elements present inside the child frame as well. So thank you for watching this video. In coming session, we will see about web tables in Playwright. So thank you everyone.